Got my Converse t-shirt on again today because we are clearly living in a prison, are we not? There's riots, there's police everywhere, there's contract tracers coming on the scene that are acting like prison officers or probation officers, not allowing you to go out your house. Get behind your door, you might be infected. Get behind your door. Stay behind your door. A lot of crazy stuff going on at the moment, isn't there? And what's the old saying? May you be blessed by living in interesting times. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a blessing, but I guess there's a huge amount of potential for growth of consciousness within these kind of very fiery times. Okay. And I just thought I'd, again, do a little video just to give you a perspective on it. Again, you don't have to agree with it. From a more kind of consciousness perspective, a more kind of spiritual perspective. I found this feather recently. Look at that beauty. It's off a female pheasant hen. So I shall be making a shamanic tool out of that, I guess, at some point, when I get a little bit of time. So what's going on in the world at the moment? What isn't going on in the world at the moment? You've got various riots being incited in America. You've still got this whole COVID thing, although the American thing seems to be taking over from COVID. Isn't that amazing how we've gone from Brexit to COVID to race riots? It'll be back to COVID, then back to vaccines, and then maybe 5G will pop in again. And in amongst all of this, how are you all feeling? How are you all doing? Because it's bonkers, really. And I guess, if you're like me, you dip in and out. Although I've been dipping in more than out recently, because I'm thinking, really? Are we really repeating the same shit over and over again as a so-called humanity that we were repeating in the early 1900s, middle 1900s, late 1900s, and now early 2000s? I mean, for goodness sake. You get to a point where you think, is there an off button for this movie? Because I'm really bored. When are we actually going to start to grow up a bit? And when I say grow up, I don't mean that from an arrogant perspective. I kind of just mean it from a perspective of emotional maturity, I guess. And it's okay to have emotions. Yeah, it's okay to feel emotions. Although I like to feel them in private most of the time. It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to have a viewpoint. It's okay to be attached to things. It's okay to live your life. All right? Although a lot of what I would class as spiritual bypassers would probably say it's not okay to do that. All right? You have to rest in this non-dualist field of nothingness forever, man. Yeah, okay. Try that when you're being pounded by a police truncheon, or when you're on the receiving end of a Molotov cocktail, resting in peaceful non-duality. Right now, you're in fucking duality, so wake up to how it works, alright? So here's a lesson on how duality works. Duality is like a pendulum, right? Let me get my little pendulum out. Okay, that's a pendulum, right? It swings from left to right, or right to left, whichever way you're looking at this. And sometimes it swings more, and sometimes, if I slow it down a little bit, it swings less. If I just hold this thing up, right, it's not swinging at all, right? Pendulum's not doing anything. What do I have to do to give it some momentum? What do I have to do to get it moving? I've got to move my arm, right? And what's that doing? What do I have to do to move my arm? I've got to, at some level, create an intention. I've got to create a will to want to move my arm to move this pendulum, which ultimately needs energy. Yeah? So my arm needs energy to move. The energy is transferred from my arm to this mala, to the little star, the pentagram at the end of it. And here we go. Left to right, pendulums moving. And on the opposite ends of these pendulums can be anything you want. Yeah? Pro 5G, anti 5G. Yeah, that's one thing. Pro vaccine, anti vaccine. Yeah? Black lives matter, every life matters. Yeah? Anything you want. It doesn't matter. There's pendulums everywhere in this universe. These pendulums, you can call, I sometimes call them entities. I mean, these pendulums become very conscious and they need to be fed, right? They need energy, all right? And how do they get energy? They get energy by inciting your emotions. They get energy by tapping into and triggering your vulnerabilities. They get energy by placing beings like you and I into situations where if we haven't done our work, if we haven't managed to some extent, even a small extent, master our mind, our emotions, our physical body, our actions, then we tend to react, right? And that reaction is like a vomit, a vomit of a certain energy quality, which feeds one or the other side of this pendulum, right? Anti-5G, pro-5G, whatever. So, when you're seeing a pendulum coming towards you, wanting food, like, for example, the riots in America at the moment, lots of things can be triggered in you, right? You could be thinking, oh my God, what they did to that chap was pretty bad, right? Yeah, they killed that white cop, killed that black guy. Do not condone that. But depending on where you're at, depending on where you've placed, whether you're aware of it or not, your consciousness within that sensory stimulation. So let's get really objective about this. Really objective. Let's almost take all of the emotion out of it and just look at the sensory stimulation of that video and that film of that quite soulless looking white policeman, if you want to call him a policeman, because he's not really a policeman, putting his knee on the neck of that black individual called George Floyd. Okay? Immediately, depending on where your consciousness is at as you are receiving that information, that will determine A, what you think about it, and B, how you emote to it. Okay? So let's kind of work with a totem pole, right? And this totem pole has got a snake at the bottom of it. It's got a jaguar in the middle of it. It's got a hummingbird slightly higher up, and then it's got an eagle right at the top. And these animals represent different states of consciousness that we exist within simultaneously, but where we choose to place our focus, our intention, our energy, whether we're placing it in the snake or in the eagle, will determine how we respond or react to that visual stimulus. Yeah? So a snake will weave through the grass, right? Can it see the grass? It can see the blades of grass. It can't see the top of the grass, but it can see, as it's snaking through the grass, it can see the grass. And it's very instinctual, okay? So its vision is very limited. Yeah, so if your consciousness is in snake consciousness, you're very reactive. Doesn't matter which side you're on, right? Sides come a little bit higher, right? You're just going to react. You're just going to fucking react, right? And generally you're not going to react very well. Okay? So, don't be a snake. Or realise if you are in snake, try to raise it a little bit to the next one, which is jaguar, or whatever I called it, leopard, doesn't matter, cat, a cat of some sort. Okay, so the cat represents the ability to start to use a little bit of discernment and, create a bit of a healthy ego in you, which isn't just purely reactive, right? So you might take a side, Okay, so you're looking at the white cop and the black guy, and you're going, if you're a racist, you'll go, well done, white cop. Or obviously, if you're not, you're going, that's really bad. that's not acceptable. Okay, so depending where you're at, you're starting to take a side. Yeah, you're starting to decide which side of this pendulum you're going to choose to feed. The pendulum doesn't give a fuck. The pendulum just wants to swing. The pendulum just wants to do its thing. Yeah, it doesn't care which side you take. It just wants to keep moving. So if you're in that cat consciousness, you're starting to take a side, and you're clearly going to be bringing some opinion and some reactivity to whatever side you choose to take. So of all the activist friends of mine, and I can get quite activist sometimes. I'm not excluding myself from that kind of collective. We just have to be aware about where our consciousness is at when we are attempting to discern the visual sensory stimulus that is impacting and coming into our brain, into our mind. All right. And when we take a side, we got to know why. You don't just take a side, okay? Why are you taking a side? Understand what beliefs bring you to that particular side of the pendulum, what attachments, okay, what trigger emotions, what potential traumas from the past may create a preference to one side of the pendulum, where maybe some of your hidden shadow aspects are manifesting in a way which feeds certain sides of the pendulum. Yeah? So in Jaguar or cat consciousness, you're still not really, you're still not aware of the duality of the situation. Okay? You're just feeding one side of the pendulum. As you rise to hummingbird consciousness, and I point to my throat there, okay, because you can, if you're into chakras, right, you can liken these states of consciousness to root and sacral, solar plexus and heart, throat and third eye and crown, okay, so I won't correspond them exactly, but you get the gist, yeah, you get the idea. So as we head up the totem pole, we're a little hummingbird now, we're kind of hovering and flitting, yeah, from flower to flower, yeah? So we're able at that point to start to look at both sides. Oh, I'll have a little go on this side. Ooh, not sure I like that. I'll go on this. Oh, not sure I like that. And you're starting to work with discernment. You're starting to express yourself in a way which sees both sides of an issue, all right? And you're able then to start to hover and float, okay? And you might still be on slightly one side of the pendulum, but you may not be at such an extreme. You might still be saying, all lives matter. Let's continue this subject, this example, okay? So this side of the pendulum is Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, life matters, and this side of the pendulum is only certain types of life matter. So from my perspective, okay, all life matters. Black life, white life, yellow life, okay, plant life, animal life, planetary life, mineral life, all the kingdoms, everything matters. The entire creation matters, okay? We are part of it all. We have to tread the earth lightly. We have to respect, okay, respect the cosmos, because we are part of the cosmos. If we disrespect the cosmos, if we disrespect other people, we're disrespecting ourselves. It's a golden rule. It should be bloody obvious, really. It really should. But clearly it isn't. So when you're in hummingbird consciousness, you're seeing beyond the extremes. You're not so reactive, okay? And you're starting to use a bit of discernment. You're starting to use a little bit of discernment, okay? And then, if you choose to raise your perspective even higher, you start to float around like an eagle, yeah, and look at this is good, I can see the whole thing right from up here. And you just see this shit show going on, And most of the time, if you're in eagle consciousness, you just go, fucking hell, leave them to it. Yeah? Clearly, there's a pendulum that's managed to grab their attention, and they're starting to feed it, and they're fighting them against each other, and all this quality of energy, depending on what side of the pendulum you're on, whether you're a Luciferian light worker, right, or a satanic, yeah, black magician, yeah, you're just feeding the same side or the side of the same pendulum. Angels and demons, I've said it before. There's no difference. Same pendulum, different sides, right? Okay, so what's right and what's wrong? Who knows? What's objective and what's not objective? It depends what side you're on, right? If I'm playing chess and I've got the black pieces and my opponent has the white pieces, yeah? And I'm playing black, you're playing white. Am I wrong because I'm black and you're right because you're white, or vice versa? No, we're both right. We're both valid. We're just playing different sides of the pendulum. I hope you're getting it. All right, so we're in a situation now where we've got this pendulum swinging, and we're in our ego consciousness, and we're looking down at the pendulum. Oh, that's a nice pendulum. And we can choose then, because we can see the whole picture. We don't just see the people clashing in the street. We don't just see the energy being transferred from different sides of the pendulum. We don't just see that. We start to see who triggered the pendulum in the first place, what the agenda was behind it. We start to look at it and go, wow, this is actually following perfect karmic law. This is following perfect cosmic law. Karma is our teacher, right? Karma teaches us that if we choose to act in a certain way, we will have to reap the consequences of those choices, be they positive, one side of the pendulum, or negative, the other side of the pendulum. So karma could be likened to a bit of a pendulum, but karma sees the whole thing. Karma is a bitch, if you are. Okay? So karmically, when you look at this situation, or a lot of these situations that are going on planetary-wide from a high level of perspective, an eagle level of perspective of consciousness, you start to discern, and you're given an even more, or rather you are able to have somewhat more choice as to how, or even if, you want to get involved, respond, react. Because as soon as you start to go back down to hummingbird, jaguar, and snake, this little pendulum has got ya. All right? And it wants your food. It wants your energy. Yeah, it wants your energy as food to keep swinging. Yeah? Just like when I'm growing my veggies in my garden, unfortunately, they're going to be eaten. Okay? But I'm going to give them lots of love in the process, right? So maybe we're just on a big freaking farm at the moment, yeah? Maybe we're on a prison farm. Yeah? And maybe if we finally wake up to that, we might be able to get into our eagle consciousness and stop reacting so fucking much, because when we don't provide the food for these pendulums, they're going to have to go and fuck off and find someone else to eat. Yeah? So we have the opportunity, the sovereignty, the intelligence, the soul power, the spiritual development, and the intelligence to see through and above situations that are going on this planet at the moment. Choose which battles you want to fight, I guess. You can't fight them all. Understand that where your consciousness is at will determine how you perceive a situation. Okay? And learn to some extent. Do some work. Learn how to become more emotionally coherent and mature, so that when you are triggered, because it's inevitable that you are going to get triggered, you're going to react. Yeah? And it's okay to react. It's okay to feel a reaction in you. It's okay to feel an emotion in you. It's what makes you the potential to be a full human being. Without that, you'd be a psychopath, right? So it's okay to do that. What you need to take responsibility for, though, is what you do with that reaction. So even with that reaction, do you demonstrate in a way, okay, which is peaceful, coherent, diligent, diplomatic, and intelligent? Do you protest in a way which hurts the powers that be where it freaking hurts them most, i.e. their fucking wallet, right? Because if you don't react to this stuff, yeah, if we gather in community and choose to grieve situations like this, then we're not feeding these big ugly pendulums, which ultimately will then want to look to entrap us further in our cellular structures, physical bodies, right, to keep the food supply going. Yeah? That's all they're interested in. The farm animals. Read Animal Farm. It's a great book about life. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed the lesson for today. Yeah, pendulums. And choose how you want to give your energy, your power away to situations that you potentially feel very strongly about. Personally, I'm choosing to observe right now. I do send out some quite cynical and sarcastic memes via my Facebook page occasionally. Only because, to be honest with you, it's getting boring. You know, why can't we all just get along? Let's get out of our Jaguar now. Let's pat the Jaguar on the head and give it a cup of milk, right? And soothe it a bit, and start to work on our power issues, yeah. And get beyond the solar plexus, really into the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown, so that we can balance ourselves. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, all of us have to exist on this planet. And when you're operating in whatever level of consciousness you are operating at, you are naturally going to be disharmoniously in discord with different levels of consciousness. Okay? And that actually creates even more discord. Alright? So the game's been designed perfectly. So if you're at a level of consciousness, and be honest with this, right, guys? Yeah? Because I recently I've gone right into fucking snake sometimes. Yeah. Again, I'm not preaching from a fucking pedestal here, but I'm aware I've gone into snake, and I might play being a snake for a bit, yeah, and then reap my karma for it, or I might play being the Jaguar for a bit and reap my karma for it, and so on and so forth. But try to look at it from all levels. Get into your eagle, get into your hummingbird, get into your Jaguar, get into your snake. Feel what it feels like. Feel what it feels like for you. What's right for you, you know? And yeah, start to understand it from that perspective, because there is one true thing that our British government has said, is that we are all in this together. We are all in this together. And it's the responsibility of those that potentially are able to see the bigger picture, are potentially able to see things from a slightly higher perspective, not higher, not from a I'm a better than you because I can see it from a higher perspective, from an eagle perspective rather than a snake perspective, because they're blocked or they're trapped or they've been conditioned a certain way. You can't blame people for the level of consciousness that they're at. You know, most of us have been programmed from birth, right? There's a if you're running a farm, right, you're going to want different quality of food, yeah? You're going to want food to feed the animals, and then you're going to want food to feed the farmer and his wife, yeah? And the farmer and his wife are going to eat different food to the animals, right? And different animals are going to eat different grades of food as well. So the plants are going to eat nitrates and fertilizers and shit, yeah? So the plants get the shit, literally. Then the animals get like the stuff that's in between the shit and the and the scraps, and then the farmer and his wife has the gourmet dinner, right? And then they eat the animals and the plants as the gourmet dinner. So it's a bit like that on planet Earth, you know. If you're producing a certain quality of energy, you're producing a quality of food for these pendulums to feed off. Call them pendulums if you want. You call them astral entities, demons, whatever you want. So have a think about it and understand that, you know, we're all food. So if you don't want to be food and you want to get out of this fucking pendulum called life on planet Earth, do your work. Yeah? Understand yourself more. Understand that if you can start to liberate yourself from the entrapment of your own conditioning and your own patterns and your own wounds through healing, then these pendulums aren't going to come near you, because they're not going to be able to feed off you. You're going to become unfuck withable. Just like the Buddha. Yeah? Unfuck withable. Doesn't mean you don't care. It just means that you see through situations. Okay? And see them as actually perfect based on karmic law, which is immutable. It is a perfect law which everything within this ever-changing energetic material cosmos follows. Can't avoid it. You're in it. Okay? So it's perfect law. So everything that's happening on this planet at the moment is perfect, because it is the exact result of our choices. Not just recently, from eons and eons and eons ago. Our choices. Sins of the father, 7 generations through the sons. Yeah? These choices go back centuries, millennia, eons, cosmic cycles. Karma doesn't just stop. Right? Karma has no beginning and no end. Anyway, I'll leave you to it. See you next time.